Next on MLR Weekly, Chicago Hounds star Chris Mattina, the best recap in Major League Rugby, a perfect preview from Bryan of America's Rugby News, and MLR headlines from Rugby Mornings, John Fitzpatrick. Rugby Wrap-Ups MLR Weekly brought to you by Sheehy Auto Stores. It's easy at Sheehy. The Pig and Whistle, New York City, the world's best rugby pub. And Lean and Limber, stretching your way to a healthier lifestyle. Presented by Rugby Wrap-Up, Matt McCarthy in New York City. Good to see you. We have a great show. We have Mr. Chris Mattina, star of the Chicago Hounds, who got off the schneid. Look it up. We also have a rapid recap before we look ahead with Mr. Bryan of America's Rugby News with his preview. But before all of that, we have our recurring segment, Rugby Mornings Coffee Break with MLR headlines and John Fitzpatrick. John, how are you and your hair, and what do you got?
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, how's the hair look? Good?
Fabulous.
Great. Matt, thank you for asking. I'm doing great. I hope you're doing well. Let's start with player milestones. The MLR is recognizing the first 50 players to reach 50 MLR appearances, and we had 5 more players join the exclusive club in round 5. Let's list them all. New England Free Jacks prop Cole Keith, Toronto Arrows lock Mike Shepard, Rugby ATL center Will Leonard, Utah Warriors prop Franco Vandenberg, and NOLA Gold lock Billy Stewart.
All right, 3 of those guys have last names and first names that could be either last names or first names, but kudos to them for that accomplishment. That is something special. 50 appearances in any professional sport for a particular team is a feather in one's cap. Next,
let's head down south. The Miami Sharks, MLR's newest expansion team, shared a video on social of a possible home venue for the 2024 MLR season. Florida International Stadium, home of the Panthers Division I football team and the Miami FC Soccer Club, is located about 17 miles west of downtown Miami and holds 20,000 fans. Matt, do you think a 20,000 seat stadium is too big for the Miami Sharks to start with?
Well, 2 observations. Number 1, you put half the audience asleep by mentioning soccer. And B, I would say that out of the gate, bigger isn't always better.
And that's what he said.
Next!
Hey, how about Happy Trails? Eagle number 498, Nick Civetta, announced his retirement from international and professional rugby. Let's just list off some of his accomplishments. Earned 35 caps for the Eagles, appeared in the 2019 Rugby World Cup, played in the Premiership, played in the varsity match, won an MLR championship last season with New York. Tip of the cap to Nick for an excellent playing career.
Plus, he's got like 75 degrees from the best universities on the planet. And I would say out of those 35 caps, he got at least 32 of them as Nick Civetta and 3 or 4 of them as Nick Civetta. And he will be, if he's not on one of the Rugby Wrap-Up programs soon, he'll be in a broadcast booth near you because he is an exceptional on-camera personality. Next!
One day I'd like to share a beer and some ciabatta bread with Civetta.
Oh, I see what you did there. What else you got, John?
Matt, before you talk to Chris Mattina or you move to that segment, please tell him thank you for being such a stud on my Fantasy Ruckers team. He's crushing it. I just need him to find a couple of tries here and there. That's all I ask for.
All right, but you lost with your Fantasy Ruckers team this weekend, whereas the Rugby Wrap-Up team won. Thank you, Mr. John Fitzpatrick, who's frozen, not by his poor internet, but by getting paralyzed by Rugby Wrap-Up and our Fantasy Ruckers team. Ladies and gentlemen, now we have to look back before we look ahead with our rapid recap. And starting with the San Diego Legion. May have gone down to Georgia looking for a soul to steal, but they came away with a win instead. And they did it in spectacular fashion behind Ma'ananu, who has found the fountain of youth. Indeed, Nanu is channeling his inner Cher with If I Could Turn Back Time. And indeed, it seems he has, playing well on both sides of the ball. Is it surprising? Maybe a little bit, but we're talking about one of the best players to ever play the game. He's just a little bit more mature. San Diego with a statement win on the road in the Snake Pit. Or is it no longer called the Snake Pit? I'm confused. The Dallas Jackals went into the home of the Chicago Hounds, and one of these teams was going home with their tails between their legs. Indeed, it looked like it might just be the day of the Jackal. Problem is, there was one dog in this fight that was downright rabid, and that was Mark O'Keefe. One of the best centers in the league is now a lethal weapon off the wing in that very good back line that hasn't yet had the time to gel. They did just enough, however, to put New York City's Chris Mattina in a position to win the match. And the silent assassin from the Upper West Side via Xavier and Delaware solidified Chicago's first ever win and kept Dallas from their first ever win. The Toronto Arrows found their mojo, they said. The Toronto Arrows were on target again, they said. The Toronto Arrows were flying high again, they said. The they was not the host team in the nation's capital, Old Glory, DC, however, and it was all glory all day. The new acquisition stepped up, and Washington finds themselves now in the thick of the Eastern Conference race after a one-sided victory that even Congress couldn't dismiss. Old Glory announces their candidacy as a team to watch in the East. Down in the Big Easy, New Orleans continued their renaissance and helped prove the scientific theory that mountain people are poop at sea level. And even worse, below sea level, where NOLA play. J.P. Duplessis was spectacular for the second week in a row, and New Orleans routed the Utah Warriors, dismissing reports of their demise as premature. In New York City, even John Bradshaw Layfield, the WWE legend and the rugby odds legend, in a gorilla suit, couldn't help the local team past the New England Free Jacks. The Ironworkers, who bent but didn't break early in the game, holding up 3 tries, were eventually torched by the visiting Flapjackals. On a crisp, sunny day on the Bronx border, the visitors from Boston were in control, but for a fleeting moment or two in the match, as John Poland and Jason Patras controlled the game from scrum half and fly half, respectively. The New Englanders now sit on the top of the table in a very tight Eastern Conference. Whew. Okay, let's take a quick break and bring in Mr. Chris Mattina of the Chicago Hounds after this.
Selling or trading in your vehicle? She makes it easy. With Easy Trade, start online or visit us in store. We want your vehicle, and we'll give you up to 125% of KBB value.
It's easy at Sheehy.com.
This is the Rugby Odds, where an unlikely pundit panel of a wordsmith, a WWE legend, a rugby star, and a supermodel scour the globe, seeking best bets and bad behavior. Are you not entertained? And we're back with the Player of the Week. That's right, Major League Rugby Player of the Week, Mr. Chris Mattina of the Chicago Hounds. Chris, I can still hear you exhaling that long relief sound of the whew for all of your players and all of Chicago for that first win.
Yeah, no, it was a good one for us. We were really happy about it, and just full credit to that Dallas team. They've gotten a lot better since last season, and they put up quite the fight, and they have, for the first 5 games of their season. So we were very happy with that win, and it's kind of a monkey off our back for us to get that first.
What was going through your mind and your teammates' minds when Dallas scored to go ahead and time was running out on you guys getting that win, and more importantly, being the first team to lose to Dallas in their history.
Yeah, that was it was a bit of shock, to be honest. I think when we went up 21-10, we felt pretty confident that we were going to pull away with it, and we felt pretty good. And they kind of stormed back like they have all season. And I think we kind of came into the huddle under the sticks as soon as they went up, and I was like, boys, we need to just get the ball back, hold on to it, and then we're going to score. So, that ended up happening. So, but yeah, it was a bit of a nerve-wracking finish for us, for sure.
So the finish, you were an enormous part of this. You kicked the game-winning penalty goal. So, walk me through what's going through your head as you're lining up to kick the ball, and B, what were your thoughts immediately after kicking it?
Yeah, just lining it up. I think as soon as we elected to go for points, it was kind of, do we want to go for it? Do we want to go for the corner? As soon as we said, let's go for it, I think it was just locked into just my process of the kick. And I think I've had a pretty good mindset shift over the past few years of, you don't have to worry about the outcome. You just worry about your own process. And if I do everything right in my process, it'll go exactly where I want it to go. If I think about missing it, or if I think about what I'm doing, then, it has more of a possibility to miss. So I think just keeping my eye on the ball, finishing through my contact and my swing, and yeah, just hoping that it goes down the post. So it was awesome. And then afterwards it was just, relief, but then it was automatically like, there's still some time left. So we have to get out of here. We have to get out of our own zone. We got to exit, and we got to play some defense just to finish this one out, which we ended up doing. So.
All right, so like Tiger Woods' dad was famous for like banging noises behind him and making all. You grew up in New York City. Your dad played. I actually played against him. He ran over me a few times. Did your dad help you with kicking? Was he making noises behind you, trying to just have you focus? Because you say when you're in your process, are you zoned out? Do you hear anything?
Well, thank goodness we were at home, because the stadium was dead quiet. You could hear a pin drop. So the fans were doing their job and staying nice and quiet. So no, he really didn't, he wasn't much of a kicker. He was a lock. So he was just running people over. I've kind of had to teach myself, and I've done a lot of soul searching, especially during COVID. I'd spent a lot of that time refining my craft and being able to kind of figure that out, and kind of being a veteran in this league now, about to be 30. You go through these experiences, and I think that's probably helped in keeping my cool.
And you are a versatile player. You can play all throughout the back line. What's your favorite position?
Fullback. I think I feel the most comfortable there. And just, I like playing fullback. I like playing 10. Just in those playmaker roles, just creating, being able to attack the line, attack the edges is where I thrive. And I think my kicking game's really improved. So, I feel comfortable in the back, and I feel comfortable at 10. So either of those is where I like to be.
10 or 15.
Yeah.
And when you're on the field with Cardi, how do you guys figure out who's doing what kicking?
So Cards is the number one kicker, but he actually came off and JP came on. So then I slotted in at 10 for that last 10 minutes. So then I become the primary kicker when he's not on. So, we have a little battle going on, obviously inter squad battle of who's going to be the kicker, but he has a really good foot, and he does a lot of the kicking for us, and he's very, very good. So, I was just, he was out of the game, so it just was my turn to step up and take it.
So it's not like here's the certain kind of weather conditions, here's a certain distance or an angle that maybe you guys say, hey, no, it's none of that.
No, well, last game he had a bit of like his groin tightened up or something, or one of those things, like in his legs. So then I started taking a few of the kicks. So I've, that's happened to me before, where I kind of just have to be ready at all times. And yeah, I practice like I'm the number one kicker just to be ready for those moments.
Yeah, I was calling your game, and I said it's great to see Luke back from his injury-riddled last season, right? And as soon as he makes the kick, he starts to limp off. And Colin Hawley is in the booth with me, and he just looks at me and goes, dude,
commentator's curse.
Yeah. So it was great to see him come back from that, and that bye week helped you guys in that sense. But also you guys haven't had the opportunity. Everybody keeps talking about the Chicago Hounds being this great team on paper, but you haven't really had all the pieces healthy or in the organization yet at the same time. to do that meshing. Is it coming along? Where are you guys? Because you have some really good pieces specifically in your back line.
Yeah, no, I think you hit it on the head. A lot of guys came in late. We really haven't had much time together with brand new coaching staff, except for Sam and a lot of the guys from Austin. So it's taken some time, and I think we're coming along. And I think this was a massive step for us. But I think we still have a lot of work to do, and we have a lot of ways to go if we want to be a contender and a playoff team in this league. And I think we got to catch up quickly, and I think we are getting there, but we have some really big tests coming up, a really massive stretch of really good teams to play against. So we got to figure it out within that time period, or else we won't be there.
And it doesn't get any easier for you guys this week because you've got Seattle coming in.
Yeah, exactly. They're undefeated, so they're feeling really good. And I think for us, it's just an opportunity to take on a really good team and see where we're at and just continue our build in terms of where we want to find ourselves.
And to be fair, Dallas is better, much better than they were last year. So they gave you a fight, and I expect them to start knocking some teams off and maybe surprising some people because they're being underestimated. But again, what a struggle to get that first win and then finally get it in that fashion. Yeah.
We knew it wasn't going to be easy. They have a really strong set piece. They brought in a lot of good pieces. We knew it was going to be a dogfight, and it was between the two.
You got a jackal and you got a hound, so yeah.
Exactly. So no, I think I told their coach that too. I thought, I told him, you guys are going to knock some teams off because they're actually very, very good, and they'll improve, and I think they'll get their first win of their existence. But we're happy that it wasn't us.
It was very kind of you, Chris. Very kind of you. Is it in your contract, other than Atlanta, to just be wherever Mark O'Keefe plays?
Yeah, I think, well, he was a massive part of me ending up in Austin, to be honest. He would put in a massive word for me. And, throughout that process, I was looking for teams, and I was messaging people on Instagram. I was DMing Sam Harris. He didn't respond to me. I was messaging the LA coaches. I was messaging pretty much everybody I could find their number.
I'm here, guys. Hey, I can play 10 positions and I can kick.
Exactly. And
I'm an American.
Yeah. And Mark was in Austin, and he texted me. He said, Sam asked me about you. And I said, you should definitely pick him up. And Mark kind of put the word in for me. So we've done that for a few times. I got him at Nyack. He got me at Austin. So we take care of each other. So we end up, in the same place. And we live together too. So it's
great stuff.
Can't leave. We're attached to him, to be honest.
Great stuff. And, you took one of the better centers in the league, and he has been an absolute weapon coming in at the 14 position on the wing. And he's also great defensively too. So people are going to rethink going short side when he's over there.
Exactly. Yeah. Him and Julian, you could just see them two on the wings this weekend were the difference in the game. The amount of game line they got, the amount of line breaks they had, they scored 3 tries for us. So they're absolutely massive for us. And once we get clicking, and that's the first time they've been out there together. Once we get clicking, we get them the ball more, it's going to be very dangerous.
All right, Chris, finally, how many times have you heard people say, I used to work in Chicago?
Yeah, everybody. It seems like it.
And
I used to work there.
You know what that means.
And they all leave. Yeah.
But it's also an old rugby song, so I'm not going to go.
Oh, yes.
To work in Chicago in a department store. So I've
heard that.
I'm an adolescent, so I can't help but say it anytime somebody tells me, anybody, it doesn't matter what walk of life, and they just stare blankly at me, as most people do most of the time.
Yes, but it is a classic.
Chris, I'm glad to see you thriving again. You're a good guy. I'm always rooting for you as a fellow New Yorker, and I know that you're playing in the second city, but it's great to see you out there in Chicago and doing well, my friend.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it. And you've been doing well yourself on the commentary booth, so
thank you,
love
sir.
to see that too.
Thank you. With one of your fellow Xavier alumni, Mike Petrie, keeping me honest.
Yes, yeah, it's a good mix. It's a good balance, You bring a bit more color. He brings a bit more. He draws you back. It's a good little balance.
Keeps me honest.
Yeah, exactly.
As Mike would do, right?
Yes, always level-headed as well.
All right, brother. Thank you for coming on. Give my best to the gang.
All right, appreciate it, Matt.
That's Chris Mattina, and we'll be right back with Mr. Bryan Ray of America's Rugby News with a preview of what's ahead.
If you're in New York City and want to watch some great rugby, have some great food, and some great times, go to the world's best rugby pub, the Pig and Whistle on West 36th Street.
legacy that stretches beyond your current team. A legacy built on the backs of those who came before you with hard work. And for those who will come after you, we promise it won't be easy. But we'll be there, supporting you on and off the field.
All right, welcome back, and we have the pleasure of welcoming Mr. Bryan Ray of America's Rugby News. Bryan, I see you got your Old Glory ball kind of vanishing like with your magic trick. You got a Free Jacks hat on, and you're in front of Jamison Fontanana Schultz, and it looks like Lucas Rumble not having one of his better days. But Bryan, before we get off on our tear here, I got to let you know that the Free Jacks are not happy with you. And Tom Kindly, who was one of the nicest guys on the planet, along with and he's the general manager, and head coach Scott Matthew, were both grilling me on what's with Ray. You were supposed to be the adopted son, and you turned
I apologize, and will be apologizing in person when I travel to Boston this week to watch the game.
They've said Boston's close to you. That's a lie. Slant, they can't lie to me. All right, Bryan, let's get to it. Old Glory hosting your NOLA Gold.
Yeah, I was pretty hard on NOLA to start this season, and you have to give them credit. That's 2 games in a row now. They've looked like the team we expected that we were going to see this year. So,
well, wait a minute, you just contradicted yourself, because you were hard on them before the season. Now they look like
at the start of the season. At the start of the season, for the first 3 games, they were poor. Last 2 games, they look good. So I think we have to give them a bit of respect now. And then Old Glory DC just throttled the Arrows at home. So obviously they're going to be quite fired up for this. This is a good game, and if we're looking down the road at potential, close matches towards those playoffs, you have to think these 2 teams are going to be in that mix for that, one of those playoff spots. They're going to be close. So this is an important game for sure. It's a tough call, but I think NOLA's showing more weapons offensively right now. That that expansive game they showed against Utah, I was really impressed. They moved the ball well. Rodney Iona really starting to find his groove. Jordan Jackson Hope looks like another great playmaker there as well. I just think Old Glory maybe just a little bit, not quite as expansive as them and as dangerous. I mean, obviously Tito Diaz-Benitez is kicking the leather off the ball. He looks brilliant, but I'm going to take NOLA on the road in this one. I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be a fierce contest, but I'm going to take NOLA.
Utah, disappointing performance down in the Big Easy. Now they're back at home, and they've got your Broken Arrows once again, Bryan.
Greg Cooper is not going to be happy with that performance. That's one of the worst performances we've seen from, well, certainly in a long while from Utah. They were just did not come out to play in that one. Missing tackles left, right. I mean, just not a good game. So Cooper, I'm sure, will be hard on them this week, getting them fired up, especially at home. This is a team, they've got a great fan base. So you expect a big turnout for this one. They'll be fired up. The Arrows, boy, they not look good against DC. And to be fair, they lost, Noel Reid right at the beginning of the game. And then Tassi, their other center, went out and strained his knee. So I don't think either of those guys are going to be playing this game. And that is very, very bad news, especially when you're going up against Paul Asike, Calvin Whiting, or Tyler Fisher, whoever throw that midfield. I mean, the list goes on in that back line, right? So I think this is a real bad matchup for Toronto right now. Got to go with Utah at home.
New England. Speaking of not wanting to wish something bad on a team, you got the Jackals going up to face your New England Free Jacks. So who's going to answer when somebody says Flapjackals?
They have to ask Phil Harris that one. You have to give Dallas some credit in that. I thought, first of all, that Chicago-Dallas game was the most exciting game of the week. That was a really fun game to watch, went right down to the wire. I really thought Dallas was going to pull it out there at the end, but, Chris Mattina and Nerves of Steel kicks the points for the win, so credit to them. But, Dallas is packed. Their starting pack is actually pretty solid. I just think they're a bit thin in the back line, and depth obviously is an issue for that team. So you're going up against New England, who really looked very impressive against New York. Yeah, New York did have a couple guys out for that one. You have to
so did New England.
That, but you're right. So did New England. They didn't have Josh Larson. They were down to 2 locks in that game. So
and they stepped up big time.
And it just seems like that system that they use is really clicking for all the new guys now. All of a sudden, I think they're on a roll. I think this is a clear win for New England. I am looking forward to seeing this one in person. I want to see this Fort Quincy, setup they've got down there. See if there is actually any magic floating around there that Alex Maggleby's dusting around the place.
Were you suggesting something about some kind of dust and Maggleby? I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole.
Entire play on words.
All right. Maybe Woodgie and some kind of unicorn.
I forgot about him.
Yeah. Maybe, who knows? We got Woodgie and we had a gorilla in New York this week, which I think was John Bradshaw Layfield. The Houston SaberCats, 8 p.m. matchup in Houston versus Rugby ATL, coming off a very disappointing performance against a very good San Diego team.
Yeah. Pretty similar to Utah, actually. Not at all what we expected to see from ATL. And they lost, when Ruiz Biddle went out, especially, that amazing break from Martini Talapusi, and Biddle had his interjection and Halu scores in the corner. But then Biddle obviously hobbled in that he's having real problems with that knee. And, he's such an important, in the 4 games or whatever we've seen him right now, we've seen the kind of impact that he can have. So you'd have to think he probably won't be in this one, or if he is, certainly not 100%. And that's a big blow to their attack against a Houston side who just looked, every game we've seen them so far, they look prepared. And, this is a team that is going to play 80 minutes. We've seen that as well. And they have depth. Dylan Smith went down last game, but Nick Boyer stepped in, and he did the game before when Carlo Denisha went out, and Boyer did the job, and we know he can do the job. So I think this is a deep, really tough Houston side that we're seeing that is really going to make a push come the business end of the season. They've had a week off to rest and get even sharper. I think we're going to see a strong Houston win here at home.
Sunday, the Chicago Hounds, the now off the schneid Chicago Hounds, got their first win desperately off the boot of Chris Mattina, and everybody in Chicago let out a collective phew, right? But now it's back to the drawing board because they got Seattle coming off a bye in there, healthy and angry.
Yeah, I know. Similar to the situation that we've seen, just described with Houston. I mean, Seattle they look tremendous right now. They definitely look. We saw how San Diego played last week. Well, I think Seattle is just at this stage just maybe a step ahead of them, right? I mean, they seem to have all their ducks in a row at the moment. Everybody's playing well. They've got their system, a lot of continuity. The new guys have fitted in well. Jordan Chait didn't even play the last couple games. I mean, and he was sensational in the first couple that we saw him. So Chicago got the win, but I just don't think they have the match day 23 to live with Seattle for 80 minutes. Here we go. We're kind of heading into the middle stretch of this season where we start to really separate the contenders from the pretenders, right?
All right, Mr. Bryan Ray, thank you, sir. And thank you to John Fitzpatrick of Rugby Morning. Thanks to Chris Mattina of the Chicago Hounds. And thank you for tuning in. Please check out our other shows, including The Rugby Odds and the College Rugby Wrap-Up. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Join our weekly newsletter. And please join our American Red Cross Blood Donor Team.